And so, welcome Harry, Simon, and Stuart to the panel today. So, first of all, I'll keep up with a question for all of you. Feel free to chip me in no any order. You have got a mic, actually, feel free to ask it around. And so, what problem are housing associations trying to solve with AI, and how do you ensure technology sits effectively within the wider service model rather than just doing it because of FOMO, fear of missing out?
Oh, blimey.
Nominated.
Okay. So I'm looking at this from two perspectives. One is as a pop tech consultant who predominantly works with tech companies, but I do also do some advice and guidance to housing organizations. And then the other side is I'm a board member of a HA. So I look at two things. When I talk into housing organizations, it's about really finding the key challenge or the key issue that they're experiencing. And 9 times out of 10, it's capacity. The teams that they've got are working at 110%. And for whether it be monetary reasons or whether it be lack of skills in the marketplace, they can't just throw more people at problem. So from that side, it's capacity. And then from the board side, we're trying to think about how we can free up time for our existing team members. I coined a phrase a couple of years ago where looking at AI, it's about freeing up humans to be more human. So for me as a board member, I want the human emotional intelligence so they can deal with the difficult issues that our residents and tenants face. So yeah, that's from my perspective.
Thank you.
Oh, I think to add to the operational side, where we see it is really, or where everyone looking at it is really around repairs and maintenance. The simple reason for that is it's around 40 to 50% of the cost of for housing associations. So it's definitely where we put our focus. And yeah, ultimately alongside the operational improvements and that.
Okay. Thanks. Oh god, that's like from next week, isn't it? So yeah, I think you said FOMO, but I think it's a little bit more of FOBLIP. So kind of fear. I know FOBLIP's a new one. Fear of being left behind. Not a bad thing to have. To be fair, you're left behind in our sector. You're left behind or in any other sector. Our resource satisfaction goes down. You're compared with other landlords. Oh, at least you are in Scotland.
Oh, that is correct.
No, I know. Apologies. I think the problems we're trying to solve, I'll speak largely from my own perspective, but I think it's applicable sector. And the first one is that we are pretty small. We don't have a history, because not really had to, necessarily a good transactional customer relationship and service. Now, we do amazing things with our customers, but 90% of our requests or repairs or allocations or whatever else, we don't do them quickly. And I think the AI is a key to solving that. We don't predict our scenario plan particularly well. Again, I think that comes down to resources. But we have large data sets. We are world class at collecting data, and we are world's last at actually using that data to predict and business plan. We love process. We really, really love process, but we're not particularly efficient. It takes up valuable, and I think we said there's Stuart, sometimes non-existent resources across an organization. I think the last problem, I suppose, for me is that we think we know best, as particularly leaders, particularly people in navy suits and white shirts who are not going to be the future of innovation, possibly. And we need the ability for our teams and our customers to challenge it. And AI, I hope, will at least provide the framework for them to do that in a manner that we recognize. So that it's not that they don't know as much, it's just that it will start to be presented in a way that we go, oh my God, our customers really know what they're talking about.
No, thank you. Just building on that then, I think we heard about like the capacity challenges, the kind of the pace, perhaps that we lack sometimes that I figure, oh, I'm definitely getting me an I Heart Process t-shirt and maybe not just a blue suit. And I think, you talk about a fear of being left behind, Simon, and I think that's, it is genuine and I see it quite a lot. But so, if you've got the things that are fashionable and a fear of being left behind, but we're kind of slow, we're kind of wedded to our processes, but we know we want to use AI and actually want to get out of that funk. Well, how should leaders decide whether AI is genuinely the right approach to move forward then? Because that's hard.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the key question, really. That's why I look at it is by breaking it down into 3 things. So look at the way you do your work and look at it from the perspective of volume, like how big is something, how often do you do it? And is there a pattern, a repeatable pattern? So do you see the same things time and time again, and do you get a lot of them? And for me, it's like, okay, well, what if we use AI to triage 10 no's and low-level repairs? Let's not use it for handling complex safeguarding issues, something like that. The second filter is the data check. You raised it there, Simon. We'll collect a lot of data, but we're awful at actually using it. So you have to establish, do we have clean, structured data? There's always that joke in IT, and we've heard it for years, you put rubbish in, you get rubbish out. That is amplified to an enormous degree with AI. So you've really got to make sure your data is in a good space. And then finally, it goes back to the point I made, humans being better at being human. AI has got the potential to be a human augmentation factor. I use it myself. I am effectively a sole trader, and I get probably 2 to 3 times more productivity out for using AI. And what I say is, look at technology that's genuinely there to free up the skilled staff for the really high value work you have in your organization. There's a tendency, I'd say it's a small tendency, but it does creep in, particularly at the senior level, where we're looking at potentially bringing AI into an organization just to replace human judgment. And I think in the sector that we operate within, that's probably not the right way to look at it.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, when we look at AI, we often see the sort of really sexy full things, the sort of bots, the intelligence behind it. But actually the things that it can really bring benefit to are the sort of operational, the boring things. I was, on the train I was reading that out of all the enterprises that have tried it, MIT had done a study and only 95% found that there was no financial gain with AI. But then you'll see companies like Walmart who are just focused on the supply chain, which is not a particularly exciting part of the business, you might think, but they're seeing operational savings of sort of 25%. So really, to reiterate what Stuart's saying, that those low value tasks, the things that you repeat are the things to focus on. And I think also be honest about what the AI limitations are. It can do certain things really well, and it can do other things not really well. So really focus around where it can add the value, rather than just trying to throw it at everything.
I suppose building on some of that, you asked if it's right. How do leaders determine, is it right or is it fashionable? I'm not assuming that fashionable's a bad thing, or maybe it could be right and fashionable. I think the first thing for me is, does it solve one of the 4 problems? Is it actually going to be able to be practically applied to one of the 4 problems I talked about earlier? Is it going to resolve customer queries that we can do at pace and scale? We, at Western Scotland Housing Association, we had a backlog of, I've never had it right, 0, 3 or 7 months, had it bad anyway, of housing applications. So people applied to be on our housing wait list 3 months just to get that pointed, to get on a wait list. Housing professionals are nodding at me. People are not housing professionals. But what were you talking about? So come and see me afterwards. We set up a really simple process using AI within the 365 environment, so just using Copilot, where we were able, when customers gave us some basic details, to band them, point them, and put them on our waiting list within 3 days. So when you see that efficiency, a 3-month backlog that your customer service team is dealing with, to 3 days, 95% of that process automated. Now there is the personal element. So when it comes to then allocating the house, your housing officer, your allocations officer, he needs to get in there, needs to check things, okay? But actually that pointing process is one where, it's just an example of that thing. And I think in the determination as well, it was a good question is there just a simpler solution, right? I really wanted my team to provide a solution to people making requests for pets, right? Again, housing associations make people write and say, can I get a pet? Easily go, yeah, but it has to do with all the things. And we tried. What's the right response for Westy, our chat, ironically a dog, our chat bot to make? We spent so much time on that. We realized, why in God's name are we asking people for permission for pets. They're going to keep pets, right? They're going to keep pets. There's none that they're going to tell us about those pets that they cause a nuisance, so we can't enforce in their tenancy agreements anyway. So we made the decision, without using AI, although prompted that thought, we're not asking people for pets. So I think finding the balance between that, like, what's the simpler solution? What's really going to drive those efficiencies? The last one I would say, and I'm always aware of time on this, is are your teams asking for it? So if you're sitting there around your corporate management team or your exec team or your leadership team or whatever else, and if your teams are starting to say, maybe we could do this through insert whatever product there, you're behind it. You're already months behind where you're thinking as a team. And, you know, if teams are asking for it, that's a clear differentiator that this is something that should be taken seriously. This is something that is not fashionable. Now, it won't be right, because it's definitely not always right. And sometimes, 1 out of 10 uses might be right. But if it's led by your teams, you have to take that really seriously at a leadership level. So again, in that differentiation piece, I think where the demand comes from is a big piece.
Thank you.
I just wanted to fix it out there. You buried a really good point there. AI is not fashionable. Okay, you might think it is, but it's not. The best analogy I've got is the iPhone. It's a famous quote from Steve Ballmer of Microsoft when he saw the iPhone. It's just a fad. He actually hosted a funeral for the iPhone on stage at Microsoft. Look at how he changed us all. We all use smartphones now. AI is not fashionable. We're hearing a lot of noise at the moment about the AI bubble bursting. That's at the big corporate level. Okay. AI as a technology is fundamentally transformative. So therefore, as leaders, we've got to take it seriously.
Thank you. Really interesting. And I think, what we've heard there, I think, is about balancing that kind of judgment and understanding the problem you're trying to solve. I would like to quite think I'm right and fashionable, however. But I think if you're grateful, but I think what we're kind of saying is, you really think about how you inject that kind of human judgment. But and maybe this one's for you, Stuart. How often do you see teams say, "I want this piece of tech," rather than "This is the problem I'd like to solve with"? Because what Simon said is, listen to your teams. They know the problems they want to solve and have got an idea of what the solution is. But what about if someone just goes, "I'd quite like that shiny thing that," Harry said, sometimes we get allured by something sexy. What? How many times do you see that, and how do we stop ourselves that you suck at him?
More times than we should do. In the early days of AI, and let's put that into context. The early days of AI are only about 2.5 years ago. So that should tell you how rapid this technology is popping up. But in those early days, probably 60 to 70% of people were looking at technology solutions with AI in it, and were being wowed by demonstrations at conferences and exhibitions like this. They'd get an impressive demo, whether it be something around predictive maintenance or tenant comms, and you'd get a lot of it coming back, particularly at board level, with, we should really do that. No discussion about, actually, what is our current gaps or current issues within our maintenance workflow? How are we actually going to support the data capture? Is our data in the right space? No, it was the vibes. It was like, that demo was fantastic. We could do so much with it. I think you've alluded to this, Si, that conversation is changing. I think the hypercurve around AI, generally in the zeitgeist is dipping, and housing not being cutting edge or anything like that, we're now starting to catch up. So we're actually starting to think, okay, where could we apply this? And that's then being mapped to organizations, a bit like Harry from askporter, where askporter, rather than going, here's a blank piece of paper, we can use AI to do this, it's solutions. It's let's look at repairs and maintenance, let's look at tenant comms. So yes, in the early days, everyone was kind of like just grabbing everything that had AI on it. I think it is starting to change, and that's for the better.
Thank you. Anything else to add from the moment?
Yeah, I think just to add from my experience on that is often I'll sit on some sales calls and I'll get triggered asking, what model are you using? How are you training it? Do you use agentic AI? And these things shouldn't matter to people in this room. What matters is, does the product solve the problem? Does it solve the business problem? And that's the really important thing. So, can it answer phone calls? Can it do this or that? Isn't what you should be asking. It should be saying, how do you get this KPI down? How do you solve this specific issue? I think that's a really, really key thing.
Thank you.
Just a little bit on that as well. You must be speaking to great organizations. I have to be honest as well. If I speak to my teams about, here's an introduction of X tech, I know anybody else that works in the housing association, but usually people go, oh my God, another system. So I think there's a couple of things there. And first of all, I think that shiny tech desire, it probably came from the likes of me. And again, I'm not the kind of person that should be leading that. I think our teams are probably ahead of us on the fatigue curve already. By the way, they're already on the, listen, do not think your teams are not using ChatGPT. Do not think they're not using products. The best thing you can do is make sure they're not getting your data out there. Okay. But I think that fatigue is already there kind of in our teams. So that shiny product, I don't think that's the biggest cultural thing for us to overcome. I think getting that fatigue out when you do decide on what is right, that can be a bit trickier for us.
Great, thank you. And so we've thought about, identifying the fact we start with a problem rather than necessarily a project. And maybe this one for you, Harry, is when we come to kind of solving that problem then, and we identify the opportunity that AI presents, there's big landlords thinking we can do this ourselves. We're going to build our own solutions. We're going to build our own AI. And then obviously there's the kind of benefit of partnering. What do you think people should take into consideration when they're kind of weighing up that in-source, outsource kind of things?
I think it's a really important question. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased on this side. But look, yeah, we have phone calls with people and they say, oh, I got I can just build a chatbot, I can do some coding, and, I can create a UI. It's great. It's really easy. But I think there's a few fundamental things that I think are really important to think about. And if you do go on the build your own route, these are important things to, in fact, it can be the right decision in some cases. But I think 89% of the time it doesn't make sense, and these are why. So the first thing is around the maintenance. Last night I got an email saying the ChatGPT Poro model was about to be deprecated in the 4 weeks time, and that's one of the models that lots of people use. What happens when that model goes? You've got 4 weeks to suddenly make those changes, and when a model changes, the tone can change, the way it answers can change. So suddenly you've got to create a whole suite of automated, all-phrase testing, or you've got to get someone to run through it. Does that change matter? So that sort of maintenance and related to that was sort of change in technology is so fast. Another example is Meta bringing out a new image recognition model, and image recognition, video recognition is something that is going to become, more and more important in some of the AI use cases, not just maintenance, but data collection, asset collection. So this new model is coming out that promises to do amazing things. Are you going to be able to change your product to support that easily? So the technology is moving fast. We're going to see so many improvements over the next 12 months. Just a couple of other things quickly to add is you create a chat box, with a nice UI, but what happens after that? So AI isn't just about getting the information, isn't just about that interaction between your tenants and yourselves. It's around what you then do with that information. How does it feed into your workflows? We talked earlier about processes. How do you feed that into the process? So I think that's a really important thing to think about is once you get that information, what are you doing it? A product with AI isn't just about the AI. It's also everything that happens beyond that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's right. It comes down to a very simple question for me. What is it you're asking it to do, right? If it is incredibly complex stuff and it is predictive analytics and, those kinds of things, some of those things, then yeah, actually, the security and safety you can have around a product, whether that's upgrades, whether it's your own governance, whatever that looks like, is a big deal. And you need to make a judgment call for that. The example I gave on housing applications, that was a build your own, but it was a very, very simple Q&A piece for chatbot, right? That it wasn't even a chatbot, it was done in Outlook. So that was really, really relatively easy to do and implement and safe within a safe environment. And I think it is about that judgment call there, about the complexity of what it is that you're asking it to do. I would not tell my team or ask my team or even be led by the team to a degree to create repairs analysis that requires image processing across our 4,500 properties, and from that make a decision on the stock condition survey that it puts then on £150 million asset management strategy over the next 15 years or something like that. that is too far for our internal expertise. And I think there is a question about how you build up competency and expertise in your organization so that there is a point at which you know, with the greatest respect to product suppliers, that you can challenge product suppliers on what they are doing, because there's the danger, the fear is still the Wild West about it, right? You guys could be saying one thing, what the heck do we know? But no, that increase in complexity of some of those stats, I think, relying on the product is important.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, this is not a new thing. This is not a new phenomenon. This is build versus buy. We do it a lot in the sector. And for me, it comes down to organizational purpose. What is the who, the what, and the why of who you are? I've been a software developer. I know the complexity, and it's never the build. The build is never the challenge. It's the maintaining it and supporting it, as Harry alluded to. And for me, it again comes down to where you put in your resources. Where are the real challenges and issues within the organization? Is it that actually you need to hire 2 developers, an AI expert, a head of AI, and a Microsoft expert, do the back end? Or actually, do you need to transform your repairs and maintenance process? And that actually allows you to hire 2 new customer services staff. I don't know. What I'm trying to say is it's about organizational purpose. And I would actually challenge myself, because in the last 6 to 9 months, I don't know if you've heard this term vibe coding. Vibe coding is using AI to build solutions. I've done it. I built both my website and I built a fully scaled application just through talking to a chatbot. So I'm actually starting to go a little bit on the fence. I think this is built myself, but we've got to wait too.
Thank you so much. I think.
Can I just have one? Sorry.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I think the vibe coding the product thing is really important, as having that expertise. And it is important to question the products, because we only build better products by getting feedback, improvements from our customers. And that's a really important thing to me. And I think one other thing is also the scale of learning you get from using a product that's used across multiple organizations, especially with AI. Talks a lot about the data. A company that processes many different tasks or different actions can learn a lot from it. Whereas if you're doing a single organization, it could be limited amount.
Thank you. Really conscious of time. We have got 7 minutes left. I'm going to ask the last question, and then see if there's any other questions. So I'll ask you to be punchy on this one, if that's okay. I think you've talked about a little about fatigue and change and skills and that kind of build versus buy. What have you got that disposal in house? Actually, what do you need for future? What do you think expertise is required in house to kind of manage and maintain a kind of optimal AI investment, whether that's with hire a partner or whether it's something you building house? Sorry to keep that.
I can wrap it off a few things I think are really important to me. So make sure this isn't an IT thing, this is a business thing. So make sure you have someone who owns the problem, not the system. Domain knowledge is important. AI, for me, I see is a bit of a commodity. How do you differentiate it is through an amazing user interface and the domain and expertise, the knowledge that's the expertise within that domain. So make sure give a review if you understand what it can do. Choose systems that you can configure and adapt to your needs. Make sure you'll bring it into the organization. And finally, which I think was something that we talked about earlier, is engagement. And get people engaged in the product. Make sure they see the value so that they use it. Don't just say this is the system, but make sure people see the benefit of AI. It's not going to take their jobs. It's going to, as you say, enable them to be more human.
Thank you. Once you create a sandbox for your teams to play in safely. If you're going to invest in the housing association, if you're a leader, if you're in the leadership team, invest in the governance piece, get governance expertise on it, get legal advice and legal expertise in it, and understand where the decisions are made, where those still human decisions are made within that process. That's a takeaway.
Okay, super punchy. Upskill your teams. Look at the existing stuff you've got. They've got deep housing knowledge. Send them on data literacy programs. Get them involved in AI tech communities and workshops. Look at creating secondment opportunities with vendor partners. Now, that's something we don't do in the sector enough of. And I'm saying that because if you try and hire in AI people, let's be brutally honest, you are not going to be able to pay the salaries that they're going to get in the private sector. So my challenge is you're not going to get the quality. Upskill your AI team members.
Thank you. Right, that's all the official questions done. I will ask the panel one last thing So you've got something to take away. Is there any questions from the audience?
We've stunned them to silence, or they're all really hungry, want us to shut up and go for eat.
Guys, if there's one thing you want people to take away from this, what if they go away and they
Think about what they're going to do next from this camel session. What would you say it would be?
Look at AI in your organisation as an everyone problem. You alluded to it, Simon, it's not an IT issue. Still see that an awful lot. AI conversation get pushed away at board level down to IT. It's an everyone problem, and everyone needs to look at it holistically within the organisation.
Thank you.
And I think my one is don't see AI for the sake of AI. See it for the problem that you want to solve, and focus on the business problem that you're trying to improve.
Takeaway, having talked about governance and legal advice, it's actually create a safe space in the sandbox for your teams to use it, and don't rush into governance and legal advice bit until they've given you and they're bought into that culture. Because I promise you, if you start with a project board, and I promise you, if you start top down, your teams will see a systems implementation, and there's nothing turns housing folks off more than systems implementation. So your teams are doing this. The thing, your teams are already doing this in their own lives. Give them a safe space, let them play, and then build the structure, the policy structure, the governance structure around that. We're allowed to use our board have approved us to use customer data. To be 2 years in that safe space before our board have let us do that. And quite right.
Really, really interesting and really fascinating. Thank you so much for your past. So what did we hear?
I've learnt a new word, FOBLIM. FOBLI. Fear of being left behind. I think I've got that constantly. It might be my new FOMO. I think, we love a process, but actually what's, right and what's fashionable. Sometimes we can be right and fashionable. I think we heard that. But I think we need to think about new processes, new skills, new functions, new curiosity, I guess, and get AT to tell you what the problems are in the first place, and not just running to kind of be product-led. I think Simon made a really good point about fatigue and actually change fatigue, and actually who feels it most within your organisation, and how often do we put ourselves in other people's shoes so that tech doesn't feel done to them and actually feel something they can own and feel engaged with. I think that's really important as well. I think finally, look for repeats. I took that away. Look at where we're constantly repeating and redoing and duplicating. It's boring, isn't it? So I could get someone to just clean my car and put petrol in it. I'd be really happy. If robots can do that, yeah, I could do that. It'd be really good. But it's one of those kind of mundane tasks that actually doesn't require humans always. It could do something else to free up people. I think is really important. And don't replace human judgment, I think, is a really important message for our sector. And, it's about using AI to be more effective and more efficient, not necessarily to kind of take away those important decisions where either could lead to £1 million worth of cash investment or kind of resident safety, I guess, from that perspective. Just a massive thank you to the panel today. So for Stuart, Harry and Simon, I'm really grateful that you could join us. If they want to continue the conversation with you, is it LinkedIn? Are you floating around a stand somewhere?
We're stand 24. Just
There you go. Make sure I get my plug in.
I'm on the prop tech stage, so I'm here both days.
You're in the west of Scotland.
Yeah, I'm in the west of Scotland, so good luck. No, LinkedIn, absolutely. Or if you see me, just smack me around the head with something. I'm happy to go.
There you go. Thank you very much for joining us. Enjoy your lunch. And see you. Goodbye.